Alright, time to keep assembling this machine. So, I'm going to start with the tensioner, because it's an easy thing to get back in place. And it lines up with a set screw. Which actually, since I washed this whole machine, I'm going to start oiling it as we go here. So, this is just assembly oil so that I can turn this freely while I'm putting the set screw in. That way, I can wobble this back and forth to make sure that set screw is locking onto the flat of that assembly. And then we'll put this there we go. One of those. The other one of these for this guide assembly. While you can take the tensioner out with this guide assembly in place, since I had it off, I stuck the tensioner in before I put the guide assembly back on. And that's just a thread guide for the front here. Let's see. We'll start applying oil as we go here. And since I had this machine completely tubbed and it's all dry now, definitely make sure that we get plenty of oil on everything. And like I said, when I opened this up, I could not figure out what they'd been using for oil, because like, yeah, old machine oil will get kind of grody, but that seemed like it was much darker than I would expect from even old sewing machine oil. So anyhow, so yeah, I strongly suspect somebody was putting like motor oil in this machine. how much more smoothly this runs even now. So yeah. We'll keep oiling it, and once we get the and since we're here, I'm going to put a dab of oil on the locking slider for the zigzag. See, there's this spring-loaded bar, and when you pull, that bar follows the zigzag width knob, and then you just tighten the width when you get the lever where you want it. So, all right. Since I'm looking at this end, we'll take a second to put the hand wheel back on. Put a dab of oil behind it. And normally you don't oil the hand wheel much, but again, I've had this tubbed and scrubbed, and it does need oil back there so it'll slip when you release it. I need to get the, well, I got the belt on there, so that's what's important with that. And now we'll put the hand wheel locking knob back in place. And I suspect that what happened with this machine is that somebody was having trouble getting it to turn, and when they turned the hand wheel, it would slip, and instead of checking and oiling the machine, they just pulled the screw and cranked on that hand knob until, there we go. Okay, I guessed right and got that washer in the right spot the first time around. Cool. They just cranked on it until the machine turned again, which obviously don't do. The hand wheel locking knob here should only be assembled with finger pressure. There. Go with the belt on. So we'll be ready to plug this in and run it a bit to get it moving again. But for now, we'll finish assembling here. Now the hook did flash rust a bit after being scrubbed, but that's not a problem. You do need to make sure and oil it so that it's got lubrication in the race. There we go. Excellent. And we'll tip the machine onto its back here and get oil in the pins for all these rocker arms. This is a spot that doesn't really need a lot of oil, but again, I fully tubbed this machine and scrubbed everything I could get out of it. So I definitely want to have oil, or give oil a chance to be running everywhere on this machine. Move it a little bit while we're here and get our zigzag to go back and forth. And this is a side load class 15 machine, so it has to move the bobbin case left and right with the needle, and we'll just flip our feed dog pin back and forth a bit. Make sure that's nice and free and gets oil worked into it after that full tubbing that we did. So, all right. Tip this up and get our feed plate. It's easier to put the feed plate on this with the door here flipped up because it's sprung down and will lift the feed plate up. Just finger tight these and put the presser foot spring cap on here. This is all the pressure for the presser foot, so without that on there, the presser foot was just falling, but now there's spring pressure, so the lift lever I spy a random adjustment I need to make. Which, let's see if I can do this. this bracket back off. So I noticed this bracket, which is very filthy. This is the one that when the presser foot lifts up, it's supposed to push forward and pop the and poke the button that releases the tension on the machine. It's not touching that when it moves forward. So I'm gonna double check the tensioner, make sure that I had that seated in the bracket when I put it back together, because this needs to be, there's 2 set screws here, and you see when I loosen them it retracts that whole button in there. So first things first, I'm going to hold this down tight while I fasten these 2 set screws in place to make sure that this is extended as far as it can be, and then double check that I'm seating this in here as far in as it goes. And what happened? What happened to this tensioner? I thought I had this tensioner together properly, and now it's not at all lined up properly. Aha, okay. Okay. All right, we got our flat. We got this. The tensioner is as loose as it goes. The 0 is on the up. Push it down in place. Now that's flipping the way it should. Okay. that's in place, and now double check that this is whether this is pushing on that button in there. Oh, that's what's wrong with this picture. This has to go on the other side of that. Fish it back in there the right way around, and then it will. There. When I stuck that in the first time, the finger on the back side of it was on the far side of the lever on the back. And it needs to be on this side of the presser foot lever, because the pin on the presser foot lever is on this side. Now, when we lift, it's still not pushing on the button. So, the solution to that is to bend this, to see it's not even touching the button even when you lift all the way up. So the solution is going to be to bend this finger out. Good. I'm gonna have to take that out and bend on it out here because I can't get good purchase in there. So this is going to be fiddly. It's got to come out, and then I gotta. Yeah, I think this bend here is what's wrong with this piece, but I'm gonna fix that with that bend there. So, all right. Get it in, and it's on the correct side of the lever back in there, and then sometimes magnetic screwdrivers are really helpful, and other times they just stick to everything so effectively that you can't get the screw to line up in the hole that you want it to. Alright. There. Alright. Now, I'm sure you saw in there, opening that one lever revealed even more grime. Okay. That is pushing on the button, but I think it's definitely pushing on the button, so good for it. We'll put a dab of oil all over that. There. Still feel like I've got something wrong in there. Maybe I'll take this tensioner apart and look at it again. But I can leave this screw in there, and I can put these back in. Because that lever is pushing kind of as far as it can against the tensioner now that I bent it back out. So it was out of motion, but I think that maybe I flipped one of the washers backwards in the tensioner when I put it back together, and then the button